If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell icon to get the latest updates.
So we have completed our first module yesterday. So any questions from the earlier two sessions, if that we can take up first, or we start further today. So primarily today we'll start with the CFIN architecture, how CFIN is structured, and we'll check in CFIN and source system what are the settings to activate the central finance, and how do we know whether the all the technical prerequisites have been completed, and we can start with the central finance from functional side as a FI consultant or not. So yes, let's have any questions from the previous sessions. Okay, let me share my screen. So today we'll be discussing about the central finance architecture, and then we'll discuss about the implementation methodology, which is the default one, which is now recommended by SAP, is SAP Activate. So we'll discuss how we can have the SAP Activate under our SAP CFIN implementation, how we can use it. So coming to like in continuation of what we discussed yesterday about how the central finance is structured. So here we will have at least three systems involved. One will be your source system, which can be your SAP ERP, SAP non-ERP. In SAP ERP also you will have a different variety, like different versions of the SAP ERP, or even the different product suites from SAP, like SAP Business One or SAP Business by Design, or even this SAP ERP as source system can be your S/4HANA as well. So all these three systems, all the SAP related systems which will follow the SLT approach, will have a database trigger approach. Like database trigger, what is mean by database trigger is whenever there will be any changes in the database, so that will trigger the replication. So it will not be a kind of extract and transform method for data replication, that it will not in the periodic job, rather it will be a real time, that whenever any change is happening, it SLT will trigger the data to staging tables, or you can say the holding tables, where the data will be stored temporarily. Means temporarily as in from there it will pick to the SLT, and SLT will then transfer it to the central finance system. So yeah, but whenever there will be a non-SAP system involved, in this case let's say your Oracle or SAP Business One, so in those cases there will not be a direct connection in the real time, because due to legal reasons as well as the separation of responsibility, like SAP is not allowed to directly design as per the trigger approach, the approach which is using for SAP. So for that there will be a technical development which will trigger the data or on a periodic basis or on real time basis as per their design to the staging tables which will be offered by SAP. And from staging tables, as a consultant, our job will start to pick the data from there, like the central finance design will start. So from there the data will be picked by SAP SLT in the structure which has to be posted into SAP central finance. So in that case, based on the structure, again the data will come to central finance accounting interface, and it will be reposted into central finance. So yeah, one more difference with central finance compared to other similar solution is, in other solutions the database to database copy happens, like the similar data is copied to uh, the consolidation tools. But in case of central finance, the same data is not copied, rather it is reposted. So one document is posted in source system or in different ERP as per their structure. So from that the data is copied to staging tables in a format which can be used, that the fields or the data from that format can be used to repost that particular document into central finance, rather than copying at the database level. So how that happens, that we'll check in detail, but this is your overall structure. So what happens is, let's say that you want to post an accounting document, so it will pick the header related information from BKPF table it will pick the item related information from your BSEC table, and it will copy that particular data into the staging table for central finance, which will be your CFIN ACCHD table and CFIN ACCIT table, which will store the item information. And from that, based on your SAP MDG settings, like your SAP MDG can be, yes, it will perform the business mapping. Again, SAP MDG will have separate instance. It can be on either central finance system, source system, or separately installed. But what SAP MDG does is it will provide the business mapping, as well as it will copy the it will create the master data as per the source harmonized data. So once the data is in the accounting interface, it will come to business mapping. It will pick the data as per the central finance design, or you can say the unified data model which has been created into SAP Central Finance, and then it will try to post using the accounting interfaces which has been created in Central Finance, or which by default is in the Central Finance. So, but let's say that it goes into any error. So what will happen is that it will not come back at this level that you need to trigger those documents whenever there is any error, or whenever there is any issues in posting the document. And issue can be multiple. Let's say that you are posting and they have created a new GL account in source system, and they have posted a new document, and meanwhile SAP MDG has not picked up the creation of that particular new GL, or any changes on that any GL in the source account. And so they posted document which comes into your central finance accounting interface first. So in that case, what will happen is the data will go to AIF as error. So in this, whenever you will search by the reference document, you can find that one particular document is pending replication, and you can see the reason that why it is pending replication. It can be either master data, it can be configuration issue, or it can be any reason, even it can be technical reason. Then also that particular error you can see in the AIF. And again, this AIF you can configure, you can customize, as well as you can have functions also to automate the error resolution. So once you have fixed the error, it will come to accounting interface, and then the document will be posted using the like the accounting interface function module, like function module to post the account, and a new document will be reposted into central finance. Same goes for non-SAP ERP also, especially like Oracle. Let's say they follow a complete different structure only. They don't have GL account similar to the structure what we define in our SAP ERP. They have different key fields which will identify a GL account, or even the way in which posting happens is quite different from how the posting structure is in the source system, in the SAP ERPs. So here, what will happen is that in this from this database tables, from the database tables, or wherever the data is stored for those particular ERPs, from there the data will be picked. It will be harmonized in a via technical development to pick the fields which will be as per the posting interface of the, or you can say the, as per the structure in CFIN ACCHD tables and CFIN ACC IT tables. So no need to remember those tables by name, but you need to understand there are some holding tables which will have the accounting document templates, you can say, kind of, that it will hold the data for posting into central finance. Any questions on the way it's being posted?
Shubham,
Yeah.
so like a data transfer table and the stacking table both are same or it is different? So like a CFIN underscore ACC, HD and IT both are same, right?
Yes, CFIN underscore ACC HD will store your header data,
Yeah.
and ACC
IT is the line item.
yes. So in this
Okay.
case only, so let me Are you able to
Sorry,
see
can you
that?
show us for the system level?
Yes,
So like practically then only so
yes.
users will get an idea.
So I will reshare. So currently, like the systems are not set up completely. So that's the reason I'm not able to show it. So, but yeah, I can show the implementation, like how the configurations are there. Okay, so this is the source system. You are able to see the SAP screen, right?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Yes, for so first we need to check whether central finance is implemented, like the technical function for like FinCF is implemented in the source system or not. So for that, if you go to CFIN IMG, in source system you will find only one configuration. It is the general setting. So if you are able to see this screen, that means the business function for central finance is implemented. So in this you will have only one config again, similar to like what, let's say this is my central finance system. If I go here, so here we will find the settings for both source system as well as the central finance system. So here you can find settings for both source system as well as central finance system. The reason is that S4 HANA system, it can be used as both your source system as well as central finance system. So that's the reason you'll find. But currently, if you are using central finance for target system, like it's your primarily the S4 HANA system on which you are replicating the data, then no need to maintain the data here in the source system settings. Only we will focus on the configs on the target system. Okay, coming back to source system. So here again, let's say that if you want to check like what are the packages, like how it has been implemented and what are the tables, etc., which will be generated as part of your central finance. Well, like once the CFIN module is implemented in the like activated in the source system rather than implemented. So let me, this package name I will give you one package name. So there we can see whether what are the T codes or what are the T codes, what are the uh, tables activated as part of the central finance. So again, if you see in this, if in a CCH3 table, so currently you won't find any entries, but once the settings are replicated, like the once the SLT, your S4 system, central finance system as well as source systems are connected. So whenever there will be any change, it will copy the data. Like whenever let's say you create any accounting document, then it will copy create that an entry into this particular table as well. So it will not be only two tables, there will be more tables also, but primarily this will be the two tables. If you configure any additional parameters, it will store in the CFIN APP table. So if there are any additional structure, let's say you configure any particular extra fields which you need to copy into your central finance system, so then it will append to this table. Similarly for CO also, you will find the corresponding tables, and same goes for uh, your cost objects as well. And then coming to, I think, okay, SLT. Okay, so even if let's say that you want to go on this SLT, so SLT will have SLT you can have on like 3 different systems as well. So you're able to see my PPT again, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So this is the particular structure, but how, like, this does not tell where will be my systems standing. Like, let's say that we need 3 systems, separate systems, but we can have source ERP. This SLT is my, we can say, kind of middleware, which is the interfacing between my source ERP and central finance. So this SLT system, it can be on source ERP as well. Even on SEC, you can implement this SLT. You can have SLT as a separate system as well, and you can have SLT on your central finance system as well. So currently what we'll be using will be on the central finance, but there are all the 3 options which will be available to client for the SLT system. So let's discuss about what will be the benefits and drawbacks if you choose to implement on source ERP or separately or on the central finance system. So let's say that if you have implemented it on the source system, then what will be the benefit is that it will have the data directly. Like, if you don't have it, if you have it separately, then you need to send the data via RFC or via connection approach, which can cause issues, or sometimes the connection is unstable, then your application will be delayed, means it will not log it to the central finance table. So if you implement on source ERP, it will, SLT will have access to all the table data from the source ERP, and the data movement from your source ERP to SLT will be quite faster. But again, as a same way, it will be a challenge also, because you will have multiple ERPs connected for central finance system, and SLT will have on only one particular source system. Let's say that you choose the ERP with highest number of data or the largest data volume. So that can be one use case where you implement SLT on source system. Because if there are multiple big ERPs and you implement it on source system, then the other ERP needs to send data to SLT on different source ERP, and again it will have the same challenge for database replication. Again, coming to like implementing on this SLT.
So, this
Yes,
is preferred that this is always a standalone system, right?
it
The
will.
SLP.
Yes, it will differ from like client to client. They will have different choices, but it is preferred that either you keep it as standalone or on the central finance. But
Mm-hmm.
better to keep it standalone, because like if you have keeping it on the central finance system also, because as for, because this ECC mostly will have uh, on your ECC system, like the source ERPs. Like, still there are use cases where client is on S4 HANA and is still implementing central finance to connect other ERPs, but in most of the cases it will be ECC, which will be comparatively slower compared to your S4 HANA, which is having the
Mm-hmm.
central finance instance, and SLT. So if you are using it separately, then it will have like no system performance causing due to your S4 HANA, or if there is some load on your CFIN system. So preferred way is to have it separately, standalone, or on the
Mm-hmm.
central finance system.
Okay. So even if it is on the central finance, like multiple source systems can be integrated, like non-SAP as well as SAP, right?
Yes, yes. It multiple
Okay.
source system can be implemented, like even if it is on the source system. So
Okay. But the flow will be slower because then you will be transferring data first to SAP source system and then to CFIN, right?
right. So
But if we implement it like with the central finance system, then we can directly map to any non-SAP system as well.
yes, like the structure, like the connecting methodology will be same whether on the each of the system. But if it is on SAP, let's say that you are integrating 5 ERPs for central
Hmm.
finance, and you choose,
Hmm.
you can implement SLT on only one. So let's say
Hmm.
if the data volume is, let's say, 80% on the one ERP and just 20% coming from the other 4 ERPs,
Hmm.
then still you can consider that okay, on the highest ERP I will have the SAP implemented. So
Hmm.
then So that 80% it will not require any connection and everything will be flow like almost instantaneously. For 20% you can choose to connect by RFC, but because even if you are connecting separately also, then also you are sending the data via the system connection only, or RFC only.
RFC, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, SLT standalone, yes, it will be like having a separate system, its own memory, so that, and it will be connected via both central finance and source systems. So only disadvantage is that SLT will not have access to data from any of the systems directly. So whenever you need to fetch any additional data, you need to configure additional setting or have the custom development. So that is one disadvantage if you are using SLT as a standalone system. So let's say that if you're using it on source system, you need to include additional fields. So you don't need to configure the replication strategy for that particular field. Directly the system will have access to the SLT. SLT will have access to the data if it is on the source system. Same thing, let's say we implement it on S4HANA system. And then if there is any, so if you are implementing in S4HANA or the central finance instance, so SLT will be, and central finance, they both will share the same database. So whatever is stored in the central finance, it will have seamless access. SLT will have seamless access to that also. So if you want to include any additional field, or if you want to modify the reports, like the replication or the replication strategy from ERP to this, the connection will not be required, and it can directly, like you can fetch using the queries. SLT consultants can configure it. So those, like each option have its own drawbacks and advantages, and based on the business cases we need to decide how it should be configured, how SLT system should be set up. Okay, so again go back. Okay. It's getting disconnected frequently. So primarily you can see your SLT configuration, mostly like this is kind of on LTRC cockpit. You can see everything that has been configured for your, in this particular, it is kind of, it gives an overview of all the configuration. So again, SLT will have multiple use cases, and central finance connection is one of the use cases. So it's not like that SLT will be used only for central finance. Central finance is one of the use cases for SLT. Like, so whenever a connection is there or not, you need to check. There should be at least one, like here it can be n number of systems connection for n number of purposes. But what you need to check is there should be at least one scenario with the central finance. It is required. If it is not there, that means your connection is not yet set up. At least the RFC is not yet set up. So once this is there, that means you can be sure that okay, we have the connection ready between the central finance system and SLT and the source system. So again, if we click on this, in this SLT configuration, this will not be done from like us as a FI consultant or from the CFIN consultants. This configuration will be done by technical team. Again, if you see here, so this here you can see what are the settings which will be like how the source systems, what are the source system and what are the target systems. So here you can see this configuration. This will be the source system to which from which the data will be flowing for this connection. If you need different systems, like if there will be, let's say, 5 source systems, so here will be 5 different connections for that particular using the same like central finance instance. So you can see as many systems are connected, there will be at least those many configs on the previous screen using for the central finance scenario. Again, here you can configure, again it is to optimize the memory. Based on memory you can configure how many parallel jobs you want, how many jobs you want like reserved for initial load. So again here if you see target system, this is a CND 400. So this probably, again as I said, like the systems are not yet set up, but here this will be your S4HANA system. So it will be same whatever it is here, the same system which you are using should be on this one. So let's say that in this particular configuration could be that this system is used separately as a SLT system only. So in that case, source system will send data to here. ID8, from ID8 data will come and it will be sent to this particular system. So this will be case for the standalone SLT system. Is it clear? Again, coming to this will be a very like important screen for us as a finance consultant to understand what all data loads are loaded. So let's say you want to replicate accounting documents, CO documents, cost objects, even AVL, like which are not part of central finance, but it is part of the central scenarios. So in that case, you should be able to see all the tables which are currently being replicated. So if you are using replicating accounting documents, you should be able to see here CFIN SCCA3 table. If you are replicating cost objects as well, you should be able to see AUFK table here. Same goes for controlling. If you are replicating controlling, you should be able to see the COBK tables here. So if you are not able to see here, that means your SLT is not yet configured to replicate. Like you can't start your configuration even to start replicating the document. Like it will not lock the data still. Any questions from here? Again here this will be your, there will be some staging tables, even logging tables even for SLT also, which will store what will be your data for what are the data which has yet to be processed, which has been processed, otherwise system will not know. Let's say that the data is stored in your CFIN SCCA3 table, but how will SLT know whether it has triggered that document to central finance or not? So for that there are some logging tables in SLT. So it will like let's say 10 documents are posted, so all the 10 documents will come, and when it has been sent to central finance, it will keep deleting. So it will be logging table only for the pending documents, or you can say holding tables for the pending documents. Again, these settings, it's good to know for us, because then we can explain the solution, we can explain how it's happening. But configure, or even we need to tell technical consultant if there are any filter which we need to provide to them. Again, coming to here, whenever you see any objects configured, if you click on data provisioning, you will be able to see how the data is, how are the filters set up. Again, so this LTRC is the cockpit where you can get the overview. In LTRS, you can see how this you can like give filters and all. Again, once the system is configured, you can view the settings, but please do not change these settings, otherwise it will impact the replication. Okay, this has not been configured yet, so coming to this. So in this configuration, what we'll do additionally is, let's say that there are 50 company codes for a particular source system which you have connected, but you don't want to implement central finance for all the 50 company codes. You want to implement only for 15, 20, and you want that SLT should pick only the data for those 10, 15 company codes or whatever is defined as per the scope. So those settings and all, like those filters and all in SLT, you will provide here for this particular. So it can be company code, it can be any parameters from these tables. It is not only that you can maintain only company code, you can maintain business transactions, you can maintain any particular document type, like document type usually will not have any requirement, but if they're posting anything for adjustment and all which client want to avoid, even you can include that as well. So basically this particular filters here, and unit SLT consultants will configure with the filter which you provide or which business you need to provide after discussing with business, what will be the scope for replication from the SLT side. So even though the data is stored in CFIN, CHD and all, and if the filters here it does not meet the criteria, it will not replicate to central finance. Any questions still here? Again, like how the source systems, like you can say what will need to be done in the source system or the source ERPs to prepare it for the central finance, so that you can start working on the functional configurations, or you can start working on preparing data for that particular source systems. So your source system can be any one of these source system. It can be your SAP S4HANA. So if it is SAP S4HANA, you are using a source system, there is no action required from any consultants, like no action required from anyone, either technical or functional, for the system readiness. From the technical perspectives, it has all the components already built in. Once you activate the central finance business functions, you can start with your configuration straight away, like the settings or whatever you need to do from the central finance integration implementation perspective. If it is ECC 6.0 or above, then SAP will provide some notes, and which you can get it implemented with help of your basis consultant. And once those notes are implemented, you can go ahead with the configuration. So I've also included the SAP note. So this will keep on updating. So it's better to check whenever you are implementing, better to check this note for updated notes information, which will need to be implemented in the source system. So because as with each upgrade or each functionality, or let's say even with some nodes, they will keep on adding to fix the bugs or to include a new design. So all the nodes information you will find on this particular note. What are the nodes which will need to implement? So let's say that if you are using the SAP ERP, which are out of support by the SAP system, and you still want to implement central finance, the business doesn't want to upgrade first to the ECC 6 or above, rather they want to implement central finance on the same instances of the ERP system. So in this case, what they will do is you need to raise an consulting note to the SAP team. They will provide some additional SAP notes, which you will be working with your basis team, and mostly it will be basis and technical only who will be working on those two for the system readiness. But we should be aware that okay, what will be the process that needs to be followed for the system readiness by to start implementing the central finance, or start with the functional configuration for central finance. Again, even if you are using SAP ERP and you are using SAP Business by Design or SAP Business One, so these two are very small softwares by SAP which are used by small businesses only, like which have lower transaction volume and not much data. So SAP has not provided any additional settings which you can set that will directly replicate the data on the real-time basis. similar to what is we are discussed in the above three scenarios. So SAP treats this SAP Business by Design, SAP Business One as non-SAP ERP only as long as central finance is considered. So it will follow the same approach as any non-SAP ERPs will follow to integrate. So for this, what you need to do is, in this also the data will come from SLT only, but you will not pick the data directly based on the database trigger approach. So data will come, like whenever data is posted, it will be logged from the custom development. Either it will update on real time, or it may be that it is picking the data on time to time basis. Let's say a job is running to fetch the data couple of minutes, let's say couple of hours. Again, it is purely a business decision how they choose to decide when the data gets into the logging tables. And our job, or you can say that the SAP Central Finance job starts once the data is there in the staging tables. And once it is in the staging table, from the BAPI, we will fetch it into the Central Finance system. And it will, after that, after staging table, the process will be same for all this. So there will be no difference as long as the process of posting is considered once the data is in the staging tables. Again, in this, like what will happen is that if SAP gets involved into at this phase only to fetch the data, that will create even the legal risk for client, because then if something wrong happens, there will be like there will not be a segregation of responsibility, how much SAP has done, or how much, like it will be a blame game for both the stakeholders. So for that only, the like SAP or has to avoid that, it's a very like clear rules and responsibility defined what needs to be taken care by the third party, or even these ERPs, or what needs to be done by the SAP side. So like customers are like, if it let's say non-SAP ERP stakeholders, you can say in this case customer, he is responsible for transferring the data from these non-ERP systems or from Business by Design and Business One to SLT layer. And once it comes into SLT layer, it is like this interface will receive, and from there on SAP will take the job, and then again this will be coming to your AIF tool as usual, compared like same as what we discussed earlier. Till now, any queries? Okay, so coming to like bit more details of how the transfer happens if there is a third party system involved. So here you will have your source system. Here will be the transfer program. So this transfer program will be created by the third party, as in the customer will be responsible to get this program created as per the structure or as per the database design which is given by SAP. Again, for like this will also keep changing, and SAP will update this particular note whenever there is any change in the structure, or whenever there is any change in the design, or if there is a new enhancement added. So they will update this particular note 24622424. So in this you can get the updated information on the transfer. But overall, until transfer program, customer takes care of the this program and how the data is transferred. So if anything is wrong here in the transfer program, then the data will be wrong, but this part has to be fixed by customer or the vendors which are using that non-ERP. So till here we are not responsible, or we are not responsible for the design. We'll only give the structure how we need the data in what format, the quality of data or data extraction. This has to be taken care by customer. So here they will have the data extraction, they will do themselves the quality check, and in parallel structure mapping will happen here. Again, here also the data will be segregated into two parts. One is that real time and real time data, which will start once the initial load is completed, and the second part will be your real-time replication. And for initial load, you need to follow the same approach, that the data they need to prepare the balances or line items like till when they want to post, and they need to transfer it like once as part of the batch job, or maybe manual file also, how the data needs to be posted, whether at balance level, whether at line item level. Like if we go to SAP, so if you go here, we maintain here how we want the data to, like till what date we want the data to replicate from, like when you mark this initial load as finished, and you give the date like from when, like you will maintain the this balance here document here. So we'll come to explain this table in bit more detail once we start the config. But here what you need to understand is that in this table we maintain from when we want the data to happen, like initial load, and from when we want the real-time replication to start. But when we are using any third-party ERPs, there is no such settings which we can maintain, so that the system will pick automatically from when real-time replication has to happen, and from when you need to start the initial load. So this part is being taken manually in case of any third-party ERPs. So this part has to be taken care in the way that they need to transfer the data till a particular date at once, and after that they will start the transfer of real-time data on a particular frequency basis, which again it's up to the client whether they want it as per minute, month wise, or date wise, or particular hour wise, how they want, what will be the frequency of this transfer program. Again, once the program captures the data into the format specified by SAP, or including some additional data or the custom fields, then this transfer layer, which is nothing but SLT, it will perform the mapping. Then it will come to staging tables. So from here we will have the same process as we had for SAP system. So once this comes to staging tables, this will come to your CFIN interface. So here usually these programs, like the interfaces happen, like it will be done by either Magnitude or Younited. These are popular third-party tools when any third-party system is involved to fetch the data. After that it will come to AIF error. So in this AIF we can configure all the errors, all the error handling scenarios you can say rather, and once if there is any error you need to fix. If not, automatically from here, once it comes to here, automatically the data will be posted to Acidoka. I hope everything is clear until now.
Yes.
Okay, so we will discuss about this will be how the data will flow. Now we'll discuss about the SAP Activate and what will be the project management methodology when we implement SAP Central Finance. So okay, so usually we'll discuss about this system structure. So what will be the landscape? So let's say that there will be multiple ERPs. It can be SAP, non-SAP, S4, business by one, or even your Excel. There can be multiple source of data, which usually there will be multiple source of data for which you will have you want to consolidate the data into central finance. So in phase one, like usually it will be the approach will be to have it into multiple phases, and each phase will have different purpose. So in phase one, you will take, let's say there are 15 ERPs, so you will take 1 or 2 ERPs, or based on the data volume, you will take few ERPs for the pilot phase, where you will implement central finance on those particular ERPs. And once you see that okay, everything is ready, then you will go with the iterative approach to roll out the same solution for the other ERPs. So in this case, you will have this one again. This phase one can be divided into two parts if you are going with the central payment and the central scenarios replication. So what will happen is that, let's say that you want to implement central payment as well, and you have decided to okay, I have taken 4 ERPs for which I want to implement central finance in the pilot phase. And again in this, you have decided okay, I want all the like central payment and other central scenarios activated as well. But prerequisite for any central payment is, or you have to have all the data replicated. You should have like kind of almost 100% replication. Otherwise, let's say if there is any mismatch in the open item, let's say 100 open items posted in source system and 10 are in error with the due date, but in central payment one you run 10 documents are not yet posted, so the payment will fail, which in again cause issues in your stakeholder managements and other lot of delayed payments, fines, penalties. So those will be the challenge once you, if you implement everything in one go. So in this, again, this is structured into two part. One is activating just the central replication. So you will not activate the central payment in starting only in the starting phase of deployment. Rather, you will implement once your system becomes stable from the replication perspective. And once you see that okay, my now replications are fine, then you activate the central payment and you move all the central scenarios. So again, this phase one will be divided into two part, but again that is up to the client's choice whether they want to implement it at one go or if they want to implement it into two part. So in this case, you will have replication. Once the in starting of the replication, usually you will face a lot of errors when where the system is not yet stable, or when the, you can say that when the system is in hypercare support. And if you parallelly start the central payment, central dunning, you will have issues from the customer communication perspective as well. Okay, so in this case, yeah, earlier, as we all know that because we are working on central finance, that earlier SAP methodology was recommended by SAP, but now SAP is saying that okay, we need to follow SAP activate methodology for implementation rather than SAP, which is the improved and agile method in which we can implement any SAP project. So this activate is not only recommended for SAP central finance, but rather it is activated recommended for both central any SAP project, not only SAP S4 HANA or SAP Central Finance, where SAP is recommending okay, whenever you want to implement any project, we should activate with the
Is the slide for the central finance architecture that you just showed included in the materials?
I think not yet. I will get it included today.
Thank you.
Okay, so coming to SAP Activate. So as we all know, I guess most of us have worked on SAP implementation or the SAP method. So this is kind of an next version to SAP Activate, SAP ASAP, where the SAP implementation has become kind of more agile in nature compared to ASAP. So where we are focusing on the best of ASAP plus how we can use that to further increase the efficiency of any project as well as reduce the timelines under which we implement, and how we can continuously improve. So it is like combination of already the best practices and standard configuration also, rather you can say, which has already updated on this rapid.bp.com, so where you will find all the best practice document for SAP. And then guided configuration, again you will find the model company codes and other details where you will have all the basic or the standard SAP recommended configuration. Agile method, as it said, like you need to like continuous improvement. So as you build on one topic, you come back after one sprint and you take that, okay, what are the improvements needed or what are things we missed. And this simplifies like overall the SAP implementation process. As again, as we discussed earlier, that it can be implemented on any of the SAP projects. It's not only S4HANA specific that we will be implementing this particular SAP S4 on SAP S4 Central Finance only. It can be used for migration project, even for integration, even for S4HANA implementation. Whenever we are dealing with any SAP projects, we can use the SAP Activate methodology for implementation. But for our discussion, primarily we'll be focusing today on how we can utilize SAP Activate methodology for SAP Central Finance, and what will be the actions required when we what are the actions required in each phase of the SAP implementation under SAP Activate. So before coming to that SAP Activate, we should know like what are the like major activities which we need to do as part of SAP Central Finance or SAP Central Finance implementation, which will be required, and then we can kind of segregate what will be the activities under which phase. So one will be the high value assessment that we need to do. So before, okay, let's this will be the phases, but coming to that, what will be the activities? So you will have first you need to do the high value assessment, where what will be the value proposition for client. You will be giving them the Central Finance demo. If required, you will implement the SAP best practices on the test client provided by SAP. And you will, in this phase, you will like also decide what is the as is situation for the client, what is the to be situation which they want. And then once you present all these business case benefits to the higher management, then they will come to a conclusion whether they want to go ahead with the SAP implementation or SAP Central Finance or not. Once they decide to go ahead with the Central Finance, then in next phase we will have our pilot phase, or you can say that POC phase. So under POC phase, we will validate whatever we discussed in the assessment phase, that whatever we said, that what will be the value provision, what will be the business benefit that they will be getting from the Central Finance implementation, that we need to validate in the pilot phase. And we'll be designing the blueprinting for master data, for transaction data mapping, how the settings will be, or means how the rather business structure would be into the POC phase. And then once we are ready with all this proof of concept, like the blueprinting of the master data, transaction data, mappings, etc., that what will be the structure, reporting structure into Central Finance, both for managerial reporting and for legal reporting. Then we'll take one or two transactional systems in which we will activate the as a situation for Central Finance. So let's say, as we discussed in the earlier slide about the situation, that if there are multiple ERPs, we'll take few ERPs in the first phase, we will implement, we'll test the functionalities, and we will check with, we'll validate with whatever the business proposition or whatever the business value we set to clients that they will be getting from this Central Finance project. We'll validate with them whether are they getting it or not. If they want any improvement, that part will be we can take it up like as implementation team, we need to take it up to further improve as per the client requirement, if any. So that's the reason we take it few sample systems, so that if there is an improvement required, we can incorporate those improvements at that time only, and then with the improved design we can go ahead and roll out in the other particular systems. Then once we have validated with the as is situation, then the actual technical implementation will start, where you will configure the S4HANA Central Finance, and you will maintain connection and all as we discussed. And then for particular ERP, those systems which you have identified, you will be replicating the data on real time, and then there will be like whatever the operations which they were performing in the source system, that will be moved back to central finance system. So once you have done the technical implementation, then the value realization phase will start, where the client will actually start to get the value they had, which was proposed to them, or which they had assumed that okay, this will be the value benefits which they will be getting. So that was about, in high level, what will be the activities from the central finance perspective, or what will be the major phases. So now coming again back to the implementation methodology phases, like what are the phases under which will have under SAP Activate methodology. So it's majorly into 6 steps. So where discover phase, where we kind of discover the possibility of what needs to be done, how the project benefits will discuss with the client. Prepare phase, again explore phase, realize phase, deploy phase, and run phase. Run phase is the final phase in which you close the support. So this is similar to the hypercare phase. Coming to like the primary activities under each of the phases. So under discover phase, you will perform the solution validation, you will perform the solution scope, you will finalize after workshop with the clients, you will finalize what will be the scope of your solution, how many company codes, how many systems they want to do it in the pilot phase, how many systems they will go ahead in with the other phases, in the subsequent iterative phases only. And once the solution scoping is done and validated by the functional consultants, that is us CFIN consultants, then we'll go with the prepare phase. So in prepare phase, it will be primarily for the system readiness from the central finance perspective. So we will educate the users, will educate ourselves if there is any upgrade required with the central finance learning journey, central finance, if there are any gaps that have been discovered. So that will prepare the users, as well as we will prepare the systems parallelly for the technical implementation, or to go ahead with the implementation. So in this, we will have the SAP nodes installed in the source system, target system, and if there are any third-party integrations involved, let's say that currently there are source systems. So source system will also have some connections to other ERP systems from, or rather than ERP, other third-party systems from which the data is coming. For example, currently one source system for their reporting, apart from their source ERP or SAP for primary transaction, might be that they're using Blackline for closing related solution, might be they're using Salesforce for the sales. So all the data will be integrated into their SAP ECC, and which in turn SAP ECC, it will come to central finance. So not only we need to check whether this is coming central finance or not, if there is any activity required from those third party integration perspective, that also we need to check and conclude in this particular prepare phase only. Any questions still in discover phase and prepare phase, or earlier? Okay. So coming to explore phase. So explore phase is more about knowing what is the client requirement and how much we can fit it in the standard processes which is recommended by SAP, and how much more customization we need to do in order to implement without disturbing their processes. Let's say that if there are some gaps which cannot be done into the standard solution, we need to have the customized solution or out of the box solution built for this particular solution. So, and then in this also you will have your enterprise structure defined, you will profile all the solution, and as well as you will perform the fit gap workshop as well. So let's say that like in 2022 version, SAP has almost improved quite a lot in the central finance perspective, but earlier like in 2018 or 2019 versions, there were many limitations in SAP which was not possible to implement, or which the reporting was not possible into the central finance. So one example from my previous project is that in source system they were using accounting approach, and in central finance system they wanted to have the ledger approach for reporting. So if you're using accounting approach, that means for each of the ledgers and for each of your accounting approach, let's say for IFRS, for local reporting, you are using different set of accounts. But for ledger approach, you are using one account only, and then you are posting into two different ledgers for moving to ledger approach. So that particular solution was not provided by SAP to have that kind of reporting needs. So either you need to go ahead with the similar approach, or you need to then design a custom solution to fit into that. So this will be such requirements which you will be exploring in the project phase, in the explore phase. So where you need to come up with what all the gaps which you cannot do it in the standard phase. Again, there can be some use cases where even though standard is there, but since business is not following the processes as per the correct approach, so that's so that could be one reason where you need to again do an additional customization, because even though that is supported, but you cannot implement, or that is not technically feasible. So a very common example of this is the document types. So especially when NewGL is not implemented in the source systems. So let me know if you need any clarification, or if I'm going too fast or slow, because yes, I am assuming that everyone is well aware of the S4 HANA like normal SAP FI settings. So, but yeah, let me know if there is any clarification required. So let's say that NewGL is not implemented, and there are document types, and if it is not implemented, then you need to split the documents on the various parameters like profit center or business area or any XYZ parameters. So in this case, business will not post as intended. Let's say that they can post an asset accounting document A document type, they can use other document type as well, other nature of posting as well. Similarly for on RE they can post only GL to GL posting, because the system will not have any limitation. So even though it's expected that they will be using as per the intended processes or the standard SAP recommended approach, but they might not use. And when in central finance, because central finance is built on top of S4 HANA, your new GL is mandatory, and almost every client will have the requirement to activate the document splitting as well. So once you once you configure the document splitting, then you will configure your item categories and document type classifications as per the standard, as per the process approach. You will not assume that okay, the business might be doing wrong, so you can correct it. So in order to split correctly, if the business must use the document uh, in a recommended approach, but might be that they built already top up, or the user awareness cost is too much that they might not correct, or even for historical documents the volume is too much that the client is unwilling to correct that part, or he is unable to also, you can say, because for a bigger company there will be a lot of users, and to get it corrected or to expect that prerequisite will be met before we implement central finance, that will be too much to ask for the central finance prerequisite. So those are the some cases. One can be either the technology limitation of central finance. One could be the out of box requirement of clients where they're using something purely in a custom way. One could be this example that we discussed, that the business is not using, because at last if we see, central finance is nothing but the copying the processes of the source system. So if the process itself is wrong, central finance also will be wrong. So we need to correct those cases also. So for that also there can be customization required. Let's say that, for example, uh, if the document type is used incorrectly or not used as per the process, you might need to define a custom mapping where document type is not only based on the document type mapping is not only based on the document type to document type mapping, rather it can be based on like document type plus GL combination. So those are the some cases where you will need, again, you can configure this mapping in central finance. So we'll come back to that once we have the system ready, or if not, we can go back to the check the config before the system is ready as well, but we will not be able to configure until the system is ready. Coming to realize phase. So realize phase is nothing but whatever we have built in the prepare and explore phase, that should now reflect into system in both realize and deploy phase. So realize will maintain the mainly, like if you need to ask me what will be the difference between realize and deploy. So in realize we will be doing the configuration and other checks, quality checks, testing, etc. In deploy phase we will actually deploy the solution, like we'll perform the initial load, replication, reconciliation, user training, etc. So in realize phase, what we'll do is we'll perform all the CFIN configurations, the one which we saw earlier on the CFIN IMG screen. So for source system, we'll maintain from the dates from when to when you want to replicate the data. For central finance system, you will configure all the mapping rules, MDG settings, uh, the RFC connections between the SLT and other separate system, business system configuration, mapping, etc. And then apart from that, there are a few consistency checks also that you need to perform and activate as well. So there can be like configuration consistency checks, master data consistency check, tax consistency check, that you need to perform at central finance to confirm that okay, now whatever settings that we have done as part of our configuration are in line with whatever should be there. Let's say that when you are mapping a GL account, it should have some similarities between what you have mapped in the central finance with what is configured in the source. Let's say if a GL account is open item in source, you cannot map it to a non-open item in source. In central finance also, it should be open item. Otherwise, when the clearing will happen in source, those documents will fail because those are posted as non-open item in central finance. Similarly, when you are posting on GRIR account, it should always be balanced in local currency in both source as well as central finance. So if similarly if goes for balance sheet on P&L account, so if it is balanced in source, it should have balance it in central finance as well. So if there is any mismatch on these parameters, the document replication will fail. So in order to avoid those common issues which could be taken care at the starting phase by running the consistency check, SAP recommends that we should run the consistency check. We should fix most of the error which we can. Means basically we need to review all the errors what needs to be fixed, but yes, having zero errors in consistency check is not a prerequisite to activate central finance or start working or start the real-time replication. But it's always good to resolve all the errors which you can in the consistency checks to have the higher percentage replication from the day one itself, or whenever you start the real-time replication, and even in initial load. So consistency check not only helps in real-time replication, it will help you in the initial load only, because if the mappings are not done properly or if the configurations are not in line with the expected solution, you will face huge number of errors in initial load as well as the central in the real-time replication. Again, like these settings, like whatever you are doing, you will be doing it in both quality. You will be testing in till quality. You will test all these things in the realize phase. From the deploy phase is basically what you can say is, you can say it's the cutover plan or the cutover strategy. So here you will define a cutoff date from which you want to start the replication or start the settings for central finance, and then you will perform the initial load as per the, let's say that you want till 2022 you want the data to be posted and from initial load, and from 2023 you want the real-time replication to start. So usually it's recommended that you start your real-time replication from day one of the financial year, but that's not a mandate. It's only a recommendation, not a mandate. So because so that all the data will be your on the in line with whatever for the current financial year, you will have all the data posted from real-time replication or on the line item basis. So for current years, you will have all the documents per line item. Again, in this, once the replication, once the initial load is completed, you will reconcile the data. Data reconciling as in you will match the values between source system and target system. For that, SAP has also given multiple reports to compare the values between the source system and target system. So let me check if we have access to, there will not be any data, but yes, if it is there, I can show in system. Any questions till now? Okay, I think we will discuss this. When SAP is not a project management methodology, rather it's implementation methodology, which encompasses some project management techniques, but it's in standalone, it's not a project management methodology. Again, with SAP Activate framework, you will get these three are the pillars: SAP best practices, which you can get on rapid.bpsap.com. So here you will find all the documents related to the standard configuration or the recommended configuration, each functionality wise. You can explore this site, and then if anything is required, you can directly use the settings from this guided configuration. On the cloud also you will get the guided configuration where you can like kind of upload the values and the configuration. For on the on-premise version, you will have the SAP model company code, which you can use to either in POC time also you can use the model company code configurations. And then SAP Activate methodology. This we already discussed what will be the phases and how central finance will be structured in each phase. Okay. So what will be the benefits of SAP best practices? Again, with SAP best practice, you can expedite the time taken because you already have the initial work done by SAP. You can use the same values, not same values, rather the same processes, same setup, and to fit. And only you need to configure the results which you have, or the configure the gaps which you have identified in the fit to gap workshops. So fit to gap workshop is basically is to assess what will be the what are the configuration or what are the additional configs which has not been covered in the SAP standard, and you need to configure an out of the box solution or customize it to fit the customer requirement. Again, since these best practices are already tested by SAP multiple times with the proven results on multiple clients, you will know, okay, the chances of failure are very less and you will get results as intended. Again, since as best practices are standard value or standard configuration which are industry tested and industry common, so you will have, like, when if you want to migrate to SAP on cloud version, you will have, like, it will be a very simple onboarding process where you can only configure what will be the values as per the template, and it will be like the time to implement the solution will be very less, and you can get to central finance or even for S4 HANA in a quite faster time. Again, guided configuration we have already discussed that you can use the self service configuration UIs for cloud based solution. For on premise you can use Solman and model company codes for configuring the best practices, and then you can configure any additional data, like if it is uh, for the customization you can go ahead with the change management framework to implement the findings of fit gap workshop. Okay, so since we already know this ASAP was the earlier framework which was recommended during the SAP ECC implementation or the earlier implementation. Now it's the SAP Activate, which will be the primary or the go-to framework for SAP, all the SAP implementation by SAP, and it will be an like now SAP no longer recommends this SAP launch or SAP ASAP methodology, and SAP has each version like separate methodology for all the implementation. For system conversion they have separate, for SAP launch and on-premise methods they have different, new implementation they have a different SAP methodology, and for landscape transformation, that is for uh, CFIN is part of the landscape transformation, so for this and they have a separate methodology. Again, you can find the improvements and implementations, like what are the additions which were not included in the SAP launch or ASAP, but main improvements, I think we discussed couple of them already, that the inclusion of best practices and model company codes. You will have the agile project delivery. So whenever, let's say that you find something in the realize phase, you find that okay, we have missed one gap which was not included in the prepare phase, you can always go from here to here and again for those gaps only, and then you can do the same step. So this prepare to realize phase is kind of an iterative approach. Prepare to deploy phase also you can include, because if you have already implemented something and then you find gap, so this phase can be an iterative approach, so where you go back and forth on the gaps till the implementation is complete. So it's an agile methodology. Again, the cycles have reduced. Fit gap blueprints also SAP is by it's provided, but it's not, again it's up to the client and consultants to use, or how, or the way to identify the gaps with the standard process. In this part we've already discussed, so this PPT will also be provided to you. You can get it. If you have any questions, we can discuss again in the next session. Any questions from this SAP Activate framework? If there are no questions, let me go back to SAP and show some of the configs. So coming to this, so as we discussed in this realize phase and deploy phase, we will have the reconciliation of the line items or the comparison, whether how will we let me include the T codes as well. So you have all this reconciliation available where you can compare the count of the document item, whether if let's say 100 documents are posted, how many will be posted in, how many are posted, how many are not posted, that you can see. In this T code, you can find the documents at the balance level as well. Like it will compare not only it will compare the GL account and the debit and credit line items. Systems are not connected, so you'll not get to see the output, but this is the parameters which you can execute to compare the data. So your source system will be nothing but your RFC connection for whichever source system you're using. So in this case, we'll be using ID8 system. You will provide the logical system name. Here you will give the source system. So let's say that the company code mapped is 1000 in source system, and in central finance system it is mapped to 1001. So here you need to provide the company code. Again, these are the optional fields. You need to only provide the logical system, but the time taken to execute the reports will vary based on the data and based on the selection parameters what you have given here. So it's recommended that you fill to the specific how much you can for the reporting purpose, for comparing the reports. So let's say that if you are comparing the initial load, so you can just give the entry date in which you have performed those initial load cycles. So let's say you have run the initial load on 5th of September, so you can give from 4th till 7th the entry date. If you want to compare a periodic values in the, let's say you are working on the run phase and you want to compare the values for a particular period, whether for this current month end when the month end closing is going on, whether everything has been implement each of the document has posted or not. Let me try to run anything, but when these are mostly self-explanatory reports that you need to perform, give the parameters as per the requirement or as per the comparison which you want to make, and the same will be you can get the value. So here you will get this. Yeah, so the output will be in this format. So here you can see this, there are total of these many documents posted in source system. So I did not give any parameters, out of which in central finance nothing is posted. There are no errors also in AIF, and everything is not in central finance. So this document basically it will show that nothing has been triggered from source system to SLT system, which has to come in central finance. So basically what you will get to know is that these documents are not part of the logging table or not part of the SLT. So if you click here, you will get to see the you will see the document details in the output, that what are the documents which has not been posted, and if required, like if it is part of the scope, then you can decide whether you want to implement it or not. Any questions? Similarly, you can get the same details for other as well. So this will come if you want to see only the error. So this line item is one, this additional parameter also. If you want to see only the errors, so that let's say there are 100 GL accounts in the source system and you want to know how many GL accounts there is a mismatch. So in that case, you can just select the field with errors, and then you will be able to see the reconciliation mismatches only, and then based on that the output you can reconcile to fix the errors, like only the why the balance mismatch is coming. So primarily what will happen is that if there is a mismatch on, I will just say about the major reasons why the mismatch could happen. So one is that there are documents yet to be replicated. So that you will find in the comparison reports. So first one. Second one could be if you are using parallel ledger approach. So in suits there will be a different strategy. In central finance there will be a different strategy for posting. So in that case, uh, there can be some error in the way ledger is derived or something. So that could be one reason. If you are comparing in the group currency, so in this case source system will replicate that data, that it will copy the exchange rate based on what you have posted in the source document. But for group currency it might be that in source it's not being used and in central finance only it will be used. So for that, it could be in some cases the reason could be the exchange rate maintained in the central finance is different from what it is in the source. So in that case, for group currency and other additional currencies which are part of S4 HANA finance only, so that it will pick based directly from the central finance system based on the exchange rate. But for others, it will pick based on the postings which has been done in the source system. So let's say if it has been posted with exchange rate 1:10 in the source system, it will for document currency, local currency, it will take that 10 only as the rate. But if the same has been maintained as 11 in the central finance for group currency, so it will take for group currency conversion, it will take that rate. So these are some mismatches which is at least we get in the starting phase where we identify the root causes or this configuration gaps also, and because these gaps might not come under the consistency checks as well. Again, this temporary postings, so this is a new feature by SAP. Let's for posting temporary entry to reconcile the month end closing. So it is similar to what you can say is that let's say that for a particular period, let's say for its period, August period, when the closing happened, there were a total of 100 documents posted in the source system, out of which 10 did not get posted into central finance due, and these are in AIF errors. So what will happen is that once you execute the temporary posting program, so corresponding to that 10 document, central finance will create an temporary entry into the central finance with the same values. It will copy the values and temporary GL accounts from the config and it will post the entries into central finance. And once those documents you fix the errors at later point of time into central finance into the and those documents are posted in CFIN, then this temporary postings will automatically get reversed as soon as the documents are getting posted. So if you want to compare so if you want to include the temporary posting while performing the reconciliation or not, that also you can uh, perform here. In GL FI balances, it is similar to line item balances, but it will check at the GL account level. Again, this will be used to compare the clearing status. Again, these are like line item to line item comparison for all the GL account customer vendors, whether what there can be some cases where if especially if the central payment is not activated and you need to check whether if a document is cleared in source system, it must be cleared in the central finance system as well, and vice versa. So to perform that, you can use this comparison report to check if the clearing status is matching or not. Especially like there can be few cases where it is not matching. One is that if the central if the payment document, once you clear it and the clearing document is not yet replicated, one could be that it has been reset in the central finance system as well. So earlier, like till 2020 version, you could reset the document in central finance system, but from 2021 onwards, SAP has restricted to reset any document using FBRA in the central finance system, but still you can do it in the debug mode or via the custom solution. So if there is any mismatch coming due to those reasons, you can use this comparison reports to check the mismatch, and then you can analyze those documents why the mismatch is happening, and based on that you can take the necessary action. Coming to accounting document, again we have same thing, so we can compare the count of CO documents which has been posted in source versus central finance. So this will be comparing your COBK to COBK. Again, this notes are missing primarily it seems, but yes, so here you can see the COBK versus COBK status, like how many documents have been posted in source system or your source CRP, and how many has been replicated to central finance. One more thing that you need to be aware is that this comparisons you can do primarily for the documents which are coming from your SAP ERPs. Like for non-SAP ERP, this comparison reports will not work as intended. So for that, you need to define custom logic for reconciliation of the documents. Because as we said for non-SAP ERPs, the system like SAP is starting the replication from the staging tables and it is not accessing the source systems directly via RFC module. So that is the reason this comparison reports will not give the desired result for non-SAP ERPs, and you might need to customize to compare. Again, coming to consistency check. So again, here you can give the system, and here in this check group, okay, there is nothing configured, but okay, let me check if something else is. Okay, nothing is configured, but okay. So what will happen is under this check group, you can define like what all consistency checks you want to check. So under this, you will have options whether you want to configure, you want to check only the config data, you want to check the master data. So under that, you want to check the consistency for tax, etc. So when you click on this check group, you will have a lot of options where you need to select what all things you want to compare. Let's say that you have only done your configuration and you want to check whether whatever config and mapping you have done for that configuration objects, whether that is correct or not. So you can check only that particular config objects, and if there is any mismatch, you can fix that first before going to moving to master data. So you should keep running this consistency checks once you have done a particular set of configuration, so that if there is a mismatch, you can fix that immediately rather than doing it at the end once you are done with all the configs and then you find out that okay, there are some basic settings which we have done it incorrectly, or there are some mismatches on those. Again, you can compare even for that particular source system, you can compare on the source system company code. As if you don't give any company code, it will compare for all the company codes. But let's say that if you're implementing partially, then you should give the source company code as well. Again, we are more worried about the errors and errors only, because whatever is correct, we don't need to check. So if you want to check only errors, you can just select this. If you want to show everything, like including whatever is configured correctly, so that you want to know what are the settings are correct and what are the mismatches, so you can unselect this box. So these are like mainly from the comparison and consistency check perspective to check for the config objects and master data object whether everything has been configured correctly or not. So this will be your EIF screen. So this will be the error handling tool. So if you have any documents which is not posted, or even the ones which are posted at also, you can see here. So if you currently this will be blank because we don't have anything in the logging table, but once we have the data starts coming into the system, you can monitor those documents, how it has been posted, and what's if there is anything wrong and you want to correct it or you want to fix the errors. So this will be the one point in the central finance where all FICO and cost objects will be coming into this particular T code. So here you can give the interface versions. So if you want to select for accounting document, you need to go for the AC doc, this one interface. If you want to go for CO document, you will have this up. Again, you can configure. It's not that this is the only option, like only this interface which you have to follow throughout, or this is the only thing. No, you can, if you want to create your own interface, you can still do that to monitor this FI document coming from the scope of the project. If you want to configure it, no, this should be FIN CFAC doc 2, or if you want ZAC doc 2, anything you can configure, but this must be configured, or the standard one should be used if you want to monitor the replication of the document and error handling. So again, with each you will have different parameters. So here you can give, these are the data which you will find in the CFIN CCS table. So if you can filter additionally using the filter to get the error monitoring only for those particular selection criteria. Then you can filter by date, and this GUID will be, you can say that unique identifier. Let's say that for similar to accounting document, we have company code, fiscal year, and document number as unique identifier for any particular document. Similar to for AIF or for the central finance, we have GUID, which will be a unique identifier for any document. So you can find only one GUID per one trigger. So if you want to, you can trigger the same document again and again. So it will create multiple GUIDs for the same document. So this GUID is will be unique per database trigger. So if you document is triggered once, it will create for that particular timestamp, it will create one unique GUID, and with comparison to that, you can monitor in this error handling tool whether this document has been posted or not. If it is into error, what error it is. Again, you will have the status, whether it is in processed, whether it is processed with manual, means without any errors, or with warnings and errors. And again, if you, let's say that you there is one document which is coming from source system, and you don't want that particular document in the central finance, so you can cancel that document, so it will not be a part of your central finance system. Again, coming to this emergency correction, again, this is a powerful feature which is provided by SAP. Ideally, we should not use unless there are some corrections required. SAP does not recommend to use it frequently, and only when there are you encounter some error which you want to update on the go. So this, you can see that if you click emergency correction, and there will not be anything, but let's check. There's nothing. So if there's an error, you will have the data GUID, and under this tab you will find the item information, and also what are the data which is coming from source system. So in this item information, it will have the data from the CFIN SACIT table, or it will be have the similar data what will be posted in the central finance system. So in those cases, let's say you want to modify that particular thing. Let's say that you have posted a document in source system, and in central finance it went into error that document type is not configured. Let's say you have used a custom document type in source system, let's say starting with Z. So in standard, that document type will not be there in the central finance system. So you have two options in that case to resolve that error. Either you create a new document type into the central finance system with the particular ZB, or you map it to a different document type. But and the third option is that you change the document type on the fly in this particular AIF as well for the one time. So it will, whatever you change the value in this particular item information tab, so that will be updated in the document, and this will be a one time thing only. It will not update any mapping, it will not create any new document type, rather it will update what is in the standard mapping. Any questions till now or for today? I think these are the overall things which I wanted to discuss about today. Yeah, once we will have the system access, we will continue with the configuration. So how do you want the config to happen? Like, do you want me to configure everything from scratch in the call itself, or should I prepare the documents beforehand and you want to test it? So similarly, we can follow the approach for once we have the system ready from the config and replication perspective.
So you are going to do the configuration in source system and CFIN system, right?
Yes, so there'll be two parts. So one is that CFIN specific configuration. So that definitely we will be doing in the training only. But apart from that, there will be, let's say that you want to push the company code into source system. So you will either use the existing configurations. So for that, we need to check whenever there is any, like what are the existing configuration that has been done. Or if not, we can create a fresh company code in the source system as well, and we can start from scratch. So
it is good to go with the fresh company, new company.
Yes, so those ECC setups, that's what I asked. Like that also should we do in the training, or should I set up it up first? Both are okay. We can do it in the training as well, the setup, so that we will know what are the source company codes, central finance
Correct,
company
correct.
codes that we are configuring.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions from the today's session? If not, we can close the session for today.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below, and we will reply to them at the earliest.